And quietly, you must presume these men hold allegiance only to themselves.
You river folk?
I fucking hate river folk.
Our soldiers need to be paid, else there will be bedlam.
Name a master of coin. The people will soon discover are lacking resources. They can blame him.
Criston Cole thinks he's the smartest man on the battlefield. No armor. No dragons. Just mud on his face, fire in his hands, and a plan that he genuinely believes is going to save King's Landing. But here's the thing nobody is saying out loud: the Northmen and the Rivermen already know he's coming. And the army that's hunting him down outnumbers his men 20 to 1. 20 to 1. This isn't guerrilla warfare anymore. This is a funeral march. And Criston Cole just volunteered to lead it. Let's start with Criston Cole because honestly, his storyline this episode might be the most brutal thing we've seen this entire season, and that is saying a lot given everything that has already happened. When we first see him in this trailer, he has no armor on. His face is covered in mud. And at first glance you might think something has already gone wrong. But no. This is actually the plan. This is Criston Cole fully committing to guerrilla warfare, and in his mind, this is the move that keeps King's Landing breathing for just a little bit longer. Now to understand why he's doing this, you have to go back to what happened at Rook's Rest. Because Criston Cole was there. He watched what dragons do to men up close. He saw what dragonfire turns a battlefield into. And after that, something changed in him. He became distant. Almost like nothing really mattered anymore. Like a man who has already accepted that this war has one ending, and it is not a good one for his side. He was going through the motions. Showing up but not really being present. But then this plan came to him, and it lit something back up inside of him. Because this plan has nothing to do with dragons. No dragon fire. No aerial attacks that nobody on the ground can do anything about. This is old-fashioned warfare. Sneaking through the dark. Burning camps. Cutting supply lines. Disappearing before the enemy even knows what hit them. And for a man like Criston Cole, who built his entire identity around being a soldier, around fighting with skill, and discipline and cunning, this feels like something he can actually control. For the first time in a long time, he feels like he matters on this battlefield. And Gwaine Hightower was not happy about it. Not even a little bit. Because Gwaine is a traditionalist. He believes in lines and formations and the kind of warfare that has rules to it. Criston's plan feels dishonest to him. It feels like the kind of fighting that men without honor do. But Criston does not care about that right now. He is not fighting for honor. He is fighting for time. Every single day that he can slow down the Rivermen and the Northmen marching toward King's Landing is another day that Ormond Hightower gets to strengthen his position. Another day to prepare. Another day to survive. So what exactly is the plan? He and his men move at night. They hit the enemy camp fast and they disappear just as quickly. We see it clearly in the trailer. Tents are on fire. The Rivermen and Northmen camp is in chaos. Nobody knows where the attack came from. Nobody knows how many men did this. And that uncertainty, that paranoia, that is exactly what Criston wants. He wants them looking over their shoulders. He wants them slowing down. He wants them scared of something they cannot see. And for a moment it probably works. You do not just march an army confidently toward a city when someone keeps burning your supplies and killing your men in the dark. You stop. You post more guards. You move slower. You waste time. And time is the only currency that actually matters to the Greens right now. But here is where it all starts to fall apart. And this is the part that nobody seems to be talking about. The Northmen are not idiots. Lord Roderick Dustin did not march his winter wolves all the way from the north to get outsmarted by a guy with mud on his face. These are hardened fighters. Men who have spent their entire lives surviving brutal conditions, brutal battles, brutal winters. They know how to track. They know how to read a battlefield. And when someone keeps hitting your camp in the same sneaky way, you do not just get angry. You get smart. You start to see the pattern. And once you see the pattern, you set the trap. That shot in the trailer of two armies charging directly at each other, that is not Criston's plan. Criston's plan was never a straight-up fight. A straight-up fight is the last thing he wanted because he already told us exactly what happens in a straight-up fight. 20-1. His men get wiped out completely. So if we are seeing two armies running straight at each other, it means something went wrong. It means Criston got drawn out. It means the Northmen and Rivermen figured out what he was doing, pulled back like they were retreating, made him think his plan was working, and then when he followed, they turned around and hit him with everything they had. And now Criston Cole, the man who took his armor off because he needed to be light on his feet, the man who covered himself in mud to blend into the dark, is standing in the open, outnumbered 20-1, with no armor and no dragon and no way out. So let me ask you this, did Criston Cole just throw away the last real fighting force the Greens have left on the ground, and does Ormond Hightower even know it yet? Now let's shift to Harrenhal because what is happening inside those walls is just as dangerous as anything happening on the battlefield, maybe even more so. And the reason it is so dangerous is because the most deadly weapon in this entire scene is not a sword or a dragon. It is a lie. And Alice Rivers has been building hers very carefully. When Aegon arrived at Harrenhal, he was in bad shape. He had been stabbed in the back. He was weak and vulnerable and completely dependent on whoever was taking care of him. And Alice Rivers, being exactly the kind of woman she is, saw that vulnerability and immediately understood what it was worth to her. She did not see a broken prince. She saw an opportunity. And she has been nursing him back to health ever since, not out of kindness, not out of loyalty, but because a healthy Aegon who believes he has nowhere else to go is far more useful to her than a dead one. Because here is what Alice wants above everything else. She wants Harrenhal. That is the beginning and the end of her ambition. Harrenhal is power. Harrenhal is legitimacy. Harrenhal is the kind of seat that transforms a family from minor players into something that cannot be ignored. And to get Harrenhal, she needs leverage. She needs someone with enough authority to grant it to her. And right now, the most available candidate is Aegon, who is sitting right inside those walls recovering from his wound and completely unaware of how thoroughly he is being played. So when Criston Cole came looking for Aegon, Alice told him he was already gone. Simple as that. She looked Criston Cole in the eye and lied without hesitation. Because if Criston takes Aegon away, her leverage walks right out the door with him. She cannot manipulate a man she does not have access to. She cannot whisper in the ear of someone who is 3 days' ride away. So Criston had to believe that Aegon was gone, and apparently he did, because he left. And now Alice has exactly what she wanted. A recovering king, isolated from his allies, surrounded by her people, in her castle, with no idea that the man who was coming to bring him back to his own side was turned away at the door with a story she invented on the spot. But now comes the harder part. Because Aegon is getting better. We can see that in the trailer. He is up and moving. He has a sword in his hand and he is practicing with it, which means his strength is coming back. And a man whose strength is coming back starts thinking about what comes next. He starts thinking about where he needs to be and what he needs to do. And the first thing Aegon is going to think about is getting back into this war. Getting back to his allies. Getting back to a position where he actually matters. And that is the problem Alice now has to solve. Because the moment Aegon decides he is ready to leave Harrenhal, her entire plan collapses unless she gives him a reason to stay. Or more specifically, unless she gives him a reason to believe that leaving is not actually an option. So what does she do? She lies again. And this time the lie has to be bigger. She probably tells him that Criston never came. That nobody came. That as far as the Greens are concerned, Aegon is either dead or irrelevant. She is going to make him feel abandoned. She is going to make him feel like the people who were supposed to come for him simply did not bother. Because a man who feels abandoned is a man who is desperate for connection. A man who feels irrelevant is a man who is hungry to prove himself. And a man who is desperate and hungry is a man who is very easy to point in a direction and tell what to do. We actually see the result of this in the trailer already. Aegon is talking with Alice and he is furious. He is saying that Rhaenyra has defiled their great house. That she has diminished the Iron Throne. That she is no queen. Now on the surface this sounds like Aegon just being Aegon, bitter and angry and full of himself. But if you look a little closer at what he is actually doing here, it is more complicated than that. He is not just ranting. He is convincing himself. He is listing reasons why Rhaenyra is not as powerful as she seems. Why her taking King's Landing does not actually mean she has already won. Why the fight is not over yet. He is doing what people do when they are scared of something. He is making it smaller in his own mind so that the idea of going up against it feels less impossible. And Alice is sitting right there listening to every word. Nodding along. Encouraging it. Feeding it. Because every time Aegon convinces himself that Rhaenyra is not all that, he is also convincing himself that he still has a role to play in this war. And every time he convinces himself he still has a role to play, he becomes a little more willing to listen to whoever is offering him a path forward. Which right now is Alice. Only Alice. Because as far as Aegon knows, Alice is the only person in the world who actually showed up for him. That is an extraordinarily dangerous position for Aegon to be in. Not because Alice is going to hurt him physically. But because she is going to aim him. She is going to point all of that anger and all of that wounded pride and all of that desperate need to matter directly at whatever target serves her best. And Aegon, who thinks he is the one making the decisions, is going to walk straight into it believing the whole thing was his idea. Harrenhal has a reputation for breaking the people who hold it. Every family that has ever claimed those walls has ended up destroyed by them in one way or another. And right now, inside those cursed walls, a woman is quietly building a trap around a king, who does not even know he is already inside it. So the real question is not whether Alice Rivers gets what she wants out of Aegon. The real question is what is left of Aegon by the time she is done with him.